Hey, what's poppin', guys? Sizzle here, and today we're taking a look at the P90 skins of CSGO to try and figure out what the best one is. So, first off, we have stock. Pretty decent looking, just nice black finish. A lot of scratches in the front and top parts, and then the nice little... I don't know if that's leather, but it kind of looks like maybe a leather strap at the top. Generally, pretty solid looking, decent as far as the default skins go, and as a P90 skin, it's definitely alright, but it's still stock. I'm gonna put it as a D tier. It's not like particularly amazing, but it still is definitely very solid. So next up, we got the Sand Spray, which is a pretty awful looking skin. I don't really know how to describe exactly what I'm looking at here, but it's just like different colors of tan meshed together with a seemingly random texture. It's like basically a recolored version of stock with a differently scratched and made looking texture. I personally wouldn't use this one, and I think it's just kind of pretty bad, but not completely unusable. I think it's worse than stock, but not by too much, so I'll put it in D tier. Next up, we have the P90 Scorched. This thing is an abomination. Absolutely awful pattern, pretty awful colors, a lot more wear and tear than the stock or other skin that we looked at. Just looks awful, would not use. Easy F tier, no real thought required there. Thought is required to try and find this thing based on these tiny little preview images. Where am I? There it is. Alright. So then next up, we have ourselves the P90 Storm. Very solid recolor. Nice colors of blue. The colors here, I think, match that leather strap a lot more, and the scratches at the top kind of line up with the wear and tear you get on the skin. It just looks pretty solid, it's a decent recolor, nothing insane, but definitely not bad at all. Very unique colors that you don't see too often, and a generally clean finish. So it's a pretty solid C tier. Next up, we got the P90 Ancient Earth, and yeah, they instead of just having a leather top, they made the whole top finish just brown, like the same color brown as the leather. And the bottom texture is just whatever. It's not awful, but it's definitely nothing crazy to look at. It's just like an alright looking skin. I wouldn't use this over stock. It's not amazing. It's definitely not awful or anything, but it really doesn't have anything going for it that you can't just get with stock. So next up, we got the P90 Desert DD Pat, which is your basic sand camo pixelated skin. I don't like camo skins, I don't like pixelated skins. I do like the colors on sand camos, but that's about all I can give for this one. I will say the actual pattern and design kind of makes the wear and tear on the weapon a lot less noticeable, and it does flow together well as a skin, but it is still, with those awful qualities, same, and I'd still put this thing in F tier and wouldn't personally use it. Next up, we have ourselves the P90 Fallout Warning. Pretty decent recolor, to be honest. It's got nice colors in the back, right? The red and navy blue are a pretty good background. And most importantly, the radiation symbol is not only a very vibrant red, so it's very visible that way, it's positioned really well that I think you'll see it in game. I think your hand goes around here, generally. I don't think there's a hand blocking that part, covering the back corner, I believe. I haven't played the game for a bit, so I don't remember exactly, but it looks like it'd be super visible. It's gonna be at least visible while you're reloading, and it's super vibrant. The actual background of the skin is nice, and it's just overall a pretty solid skin. I'm gonna probably put it either at a high B or low A tier, kind of depending on what else we have showing up later. Just because there's so many P90 skins, I'm gonna put it as a low B. Sorry, high B for the time being. Anyway, next up we have the P90 Ashwood. Very unique texture. Not really sure why they used it, but it's like a black and white picture of a tree and some branches. It definitely looks super unique. I don't think I've ever seen this in game before, and it doesn't look that awful, all things considered. For some reason, this should look a lot worse to me, but for some reason it doesn't look completely awful. I mean, it's definitely not amazing, don't get me wrong, but this is like kind of usable. It's kind of a very ashy skin, going from like this dark black all the way to the white in the back there. I guess, yeah, with the Ashwood skin. And then the texture kind of works well, like the graininess of the black and white photo adds a lot to that ashy kind of feeling. But it's still probably a bit worse than stock, just marginally, but I could see why someone might use this. I mean, it's got a very interesting thing. I haven't seen any skins that really look like this one in CS, so that's really the main benefit here. Then we have the P90 leather, which is fully committed to the whole leather strap and made the entire thing leather, and then changed this upper part, or maybe didn't change the upper part, but it looks a lot more out of place now because there's a very nice leather finish on like 90% of the skin, and then you just have this scratch metal part at the top. It looks a bit out of place. It's alright. I mean, it's a decent skin. It's not like insanely good or anything, but it's definitely just solid, consistent skin. The majority of the skin obviously fits together because it is literally just a leather P90, and the top part definitely looks pretty solid. Next up, we have the P90 Sunset Lily, which, yeah, it's super dull. The colors are kinda bad, and the actual design or pattern just kinda looks bad to me. Also, when you have light on it, you can see the scratches really clearly, but you can't even really see the design that well, so it's just you know, the worst of most worlds. I personally wouldn't use this at all. It's an F tier skin for me, which I believe is this one, because it's too dull and the design really I don't like. Next up, we have the P90 Verdant Growth, I believe that's how you say it. And this one looks a bit nicer. It's a bit more vibrant. The pattern still is nothing to write home about, but it's alright, right? You can see a bunch of different like plants spreading out across the weapon, and then a nice green background to go with it. And the green and brown from the leather kind of go together well, and the green kind of hides the scratches a bit better, at least this vibrant green. And you know, it's alright. It's definitely nothing amazing, nothing out of this world, but definitely is not awful. Probably a low C tier. Next up, we have the P90 Glacier Mesh. This looks pretty awful, and you just see this like chain link fence thing across the whole thing. That looks pretty bad. And even just the light, like really light blue and like blackish gray stripes across the whole thing look awful on their own. And a bit of white does not go together that well with the rest of it. Overall, this just ends up looking like a big mess. This is like if you ever go outside and look at the snow, and you see just a bunch of random like black pieces in there and a bunch of trash and garbage all in the snow that kind of ruin the nice white color of it. This is that type of snow on a skin. I would not use this personally, even though I do like a lot of the colors you see in the background. Next up, we have the P90 Teardown, which is interesting. You have the blue and red stripes across the whole thing, super dull, with what seems like a chain link fence blocking them, but it's not as apparent as on the Glacier Mesh. The leather strap looks really out of place on this one, but the rest of it just looks alright. It's got okay colors, but has a really overall dull coloring to it. And the rest of the skin doesn't match together well. But it's still not completely awful. I mean, the colors red and blue are really hard to go wrong with, even with like a pretty awful looking design. So I'm gonna put this in a D tier. I still really wouldn't use this one. I hope there's better red and blue skins. I don't actually know. I haven't looked at most P90 skins. Then we have the P90 Facility Negative, which, yeah, this one is surprisingly clean looking. You got like a nicely colored like sight plan. I've seen this pattern on a bunch of other skins, but it looks really nice here with the black background, like the white outlines and the light blue. The light blue in the top left here is super clean and somehow kinda works with the rest of the skin. I don't really know how it holds together. I'm not a big color theory guy. But for some reason, these three colors that seem like they shouldn't go together that well, go together really well here on the P90, and end up looking pretty clean, with the same front barrel. I don't think that changes any of the skins, it's permanent scratch. But yeah, it's overall it's a pretty mixed skin that somehow kind of flows together really well. I'm gonna probably put it in the B tier. I kind of like what's got going on. Next up we have the P90 Baroque Red, and it's a metallic P90 with a pretty intricate pattern. But it's got some cool effects where, depending on where you have the lighting on it, you can see the metal parts of the pattern more than the rest of it. When it's like super dull, you just see like a super intricate, like old style kingdom pattern. You'll see on like a carpet or something. Metallic top here, and the rest of the weapon look go together pretty well with the letter and especially the barrel in the front. Overall, kind of goes together pretty well, but it's nothing fancy, nothing insane. Probably just your average skin. Solid C tier, like run of the mill. Just overall solid looking skin, but nothing insane. Next up we have the P90 Tiger Pit, and this one might be affected by my weird bug I have where a lot of my skins are super pixelated. But without that, it still looks super out of place. There's just a bunch of like tigers or lions. I guess it's tigers is the name, but a bunch of tigers looking in different directions, like mashed together randomly, that just look pretty awful when combined like this. The colors are, they're alright, but they're nothing to write home about. And the top left color they used here does not work with the leather, for one, and it also barely works with the design in the background either. So unlike the other skin where the three parts work together really well, I think the three parts don't work together well here, and the design is also pretty awful. I personally would not use this one, but I can't realistically put it as low as the stuff in F tier. So I'm going to put it at the bottom of D tier, because I can't see a lot of reason you'd want to use this. Then we have the P90 Schematic, which I guess it's using a different design than I thought. Anyway, it's got some pretty nice colors for the main design, and then a really dull color in the top here to, I guess, kind of mash together the leather, the barrel, and the rest of the design. Unfortunately, the dull color they used up here looks super out of place and super jarring to the point that I don't even look at the design. I look straight at this thing, and this thing looks ugly as hell. The design itself is one of those weird, like, futuristic looking designs, and it looks pretty good with the colors they have here. Nothing amazing. If it was just this back design, I'd probably put it a low C tier, but with this awful looking top, I'd probably just put it back in the bottom of D tier for the same reasons the last skin. Not the same reasons, but like it's at that place for the same reasons the last skin. It's just like, it's not as awful as stuff in F tier, but I really would not want to see myself using it. Then we have the P90 Desert Warfare. Nice, just nice clean skin. It actually is a different barrel, which is super notable, because I don't think I've seen a different barrel up until now. Maybe we'll see more of them going forward. But otherwise, we got a really nice flowing fabric across the whole bottom here. The top isn't even leather anymore. It's a nice, like, vibrant green to show, like, the venom, I guess, because you also see a scorpion right here. It all honestly just goes together really well. The nice tiled black background looks really good too. The colors are great. The visuals are solid. It's just a really, really solid, clean looking skin. It's pretty hard to go wrong with this one. And it definitely stands out with what we've seen so far, if not just for the barrel alone. So I'm going to put that in A tier for now, but if there's other stuff with more barrels like that, it's probably just going to be a high B tier or something. Next up, we have a P90 module. I used this one for ages, whenever I first started playing. It's just a nice, vibrant, light blue that I liked about it. The hexagon patterns, like, whatever. And I don't think mine had this much dark spots on it. I think normally they have a bit more blue, or maybe in-game the dark spots are a lot less visible. For one way or another, though, generally super vibrant blue, the rest of the skin is just kind of shit. But you buy this and use this because of the vibrant blue and because it's, at least at the time, it was somewhat cheap. That's pretty much it. It's a iffy pattern with a really nice color. And that's honestly enough to put it probably just at the top of C tier, honestly. It's pretty hard to go wrong with, assuming it's still cheap. If it's expensive, maybe don't get it, but it still is just a solid option. Next up, we have the P90 Elite build. I think I used this one for a while too. It's a basic, like, kinda camo, more like military style skin. Nice general black finish, super clean, not a lot of scratches or tear. You could see also a custom barrel on this one. which just adds to that cleanliness on this skin. Very clean black skin. That's all there really is to say about it. I'd say it's definitely a low B tier. Pretty hard to go wrong with, but definitely nothing super crazy that like catches your eye. Then we have the P90 Grim, which is what I'm currently using. I really like the colors and the design on this one. The colors of green used are really nice in the back here, really vibrant, noticeable, with a nice just grayish backdrop. The way that like the skulls wrap around the skin, I think, is pretty cool. The front's whatever. They have like a bunch of these like green scratches mixed in with normal scratches just on the barrel and stuff. That kind of looks a bit better. This little design here is kind of cool, and they replaced the top leather with this weird little green texture or whatever. Overall, you get this because you like this design in the back and you like the general color of green and gray or black or whatever. Which I personally do, and also because it's extremely cheap, but that's not really influencing the placement on this tier list. Also didn't influence it with the module, that's just a fact I wanted to point out. But yeah, decent colors, pretty solid pattern, but nothing super crazy. I'd say this one's probably top of C tier, possibly low B tier. It's not as clean or as like super noticeable as stuff in B tier though, which makes me want to put this in the C tier. Next up, we have the P90 Traction. This one's one of those like HD skins, but unlike a lot of the other HD skins where there's a ton going on, this one doesn't have a lot going on. There's a general gray finish with a light blue kind of plating on it, and then a bit of a HD leather top or whatever. Instead of being a leather top, it's more plastic. See, it says 50 round magazine. That's kind of weird in my opinion, but anyway, the actual metallic finish, especially in the barrel being different and clean, it's pretty nice, and then the light blue is definitely not awful, but for some reason I just don't like it. I mean, it's like simple yet complex, and that just doesn't work together. Not in a good way, unlike a lot of the other skins I like with that exact description. But the colors are pretty nice, and it's got a generally solid finish, so I'm gonna put it as a low B tier, just for that alone. Then next up, we have the P90 Offroad. You know, this one gets a lot of attention from like the skin trading community or whatever. This is an interesting skin in the fact that when it's factory new, it just, you know, it looks pretty good. It's got a nice blue finish, custom barrel and whatnot. Got a few designs here and there. But when this is battle scarred, there are actually more and more designs along the whole weapon, which is why people, why collectors like to get this skin, because the more battle scarred it is, the more random like designs and stuff you'll see, like Toxic and Ace and King and stuff like that. Good for nothing. I kind of like skins like this, where there's just a bunch of random like mini designs and kind of like, you know, like a real soldier might apply to their weapon or something. But this finish is way too clean. You definitely want to get one at least like field tested or something instead of factory new. But yeah, the background is a very nice color. The designs are a very cool addition. I think it's a pretty cool skin, and I think the fact that it changes with the wear like that makes this probably the best thing we've seen so far, but the other skin in A tier was also super good. I'm gonna keep it right there. Next up, we have the P90 Freight, which, yeah, it's like a train, freight train on a skin. It even has the graffiti you see in a freight train. They did some really cool stuff with the texture here to make it look kind of like a 3D-ish freight train look instead of a normal P90. I also like how the train is on like the top half and the bottom half is some kind of different texture. It's not like the rail, it's just like the lower parts of the train that you normally don't look at too much. You normally look at the big red container rather than like the little wheels at the bottom on the platform. But yeah, they even changed the barrel in the front. The whole skin goes together really well. All the graffiti is there and visually there, something you can look at and kind of catch your attention, but you don't see it fully, so you look even closer. It's a really cool design, kind of slept on my opinion. Very nice looking, very unique skin. I'm gonna put this in A tier. I do actually really like how well they transformed the P90 like that into something completely different, and they didn't really mess anything up here. Like with a lot of the skins that try to transform it, it's like, oh, you didn't change this texture or that texture. But this thing, they changed every little part of this weapon to make sure it looked as much as like a freight train as possible. down to every little pixel. Then we have the P90 Cocoa Rampage, or Blast Blue skin, and this one's something. This random colored part at the top looks pretty out of place. The leather looks fine, but this big green texture should have just been a continuation of this instead. But the actual main texture on here I kinda like. You got this little like cat demon tentacle monster throwing lightning down at something. You have like a little planet guy, a pterodactyl. Just a lot of cool little designs and stuff floating in the clouds, and the color scheme's pretty nice, but the problem is this top part does not go too well with the actual designs down here, and it really draws your attention away from these cool designs that otherwise would make this a pretty decent, you know, maybe like low B tier, high C tier type skin. But with that issue it has, I'm still not going to put it way down because I do really like the designs in the back, but I think it's a lower tier C tier skin instead. Next up, we have the P90 Astralis or something like that. This is pretty much exclusively a trade-up skin, and I'm kind of glad it is. It's got this top left thing is super shiny and a really nice color blue. Plus, it seems to have an effect, like it changes colors between like a greenish and bluish, depending on how you're looking at it. As the whole skin does. It's like kind of green when you're looking at it from here, but then when you're looking at it normally, it's like blue, so that's kind of cool. That's the one thing that's going for it. The actual design on the main body looks pretty awful and just random, and the colors are not too great. When it's green, it's actually still not that amazing, just that effect itself is cool. And then the top part's super shiny and vibrant, but if the whole skin looked that shiny and vibrant, it'd be pretty awful too. I don't think there was any way for this skin to have worked with the textures that were used here. It just looks pretty bad to me, and I'm glad it's a trade-up skin. But it is cool that it does have that color-changing effect, so I'll give it that. But yeah, I'm gonna probably put it just, I don't know. Probably, I can't put it below most of the stuff in D tier, so I'll put it right below stock, just to save. Because it's definitely not as bad as some of the stuff where I said, like, well, I want to put this in F tier, but I can't put it in F tier. So, like, that's where this belongs. Probably an actual D skin. Then we have a P90 Blind Spot. This one's just a blue-ish camo skin with these weird orange blobs going across it with black spots on them. It looks pretty bad. I mean, it's got some nice colors at least, but otherwise the design is pretty awful. Camo skin and whatnot. I'll probably put it above the Astral whatever. But I don't like camo skins, so that's the main reason I have it down there. The reason it's not an F tier skin is I do like the colors here. I mean, they're nice colors. Gotta admit that at least. Next up, we have the P90 Virus. Doesn't come with these stickers that are here. But yeah, it's stripes of like this toxic stuff with a bunch of skulls of people and whatnot. And then these black spaces in between where I guess there's some little, you know, radiation fairies going through, I guess. Overall, it's got a decently nice color scheme. I mean, black and like this color green go together really well. The black top here doesn't look out of place, although it would have been better if the texture continued through it. But the leather part looks a little bit out of place. So that's the one thing I can mark this off for. But yeah, it's a decently solid design, okay color scheme. Probably just a solid C tier skin, like lower end. But yeah. Next up, we have ourselves the P90 Chopper, and this one's just clean. You had a nice like blue, purplish blue flame coming off the top, a very vibrant orange in the back, and then a random like military extra parts in between. That like military middle part is probably necessary because I think if it was all orange in the back here, it looked like too cartoonish and unreal. But it is a bit unfortunate that it's like that. But what you'd mainly see in game is this front part anyway, unless you're reloading, in which case you'll see this back part. And the front part, you just have this cool flame going off into the orange backlight, and those colors go together really well, like the bluish purple and orange go together well. The design is pretty great in the front, not so great in the back, but like I said, you don't see that. But I think this one's probably a solid A tier, and a really good option to use. Then next up, we have ourselves the P90 Death Grip. I think this is another one like the Offroad where people like collecting lower floats of this, because as you can see actually in the front, you can see around the scratched area, there's actually a skeleton hand instead of a normal hand. And that's because the worse that this skin gets, and the reason it's called the Death Grip, is these hands actually turn into skeleton hands. In the normal hand version, the top part is just kind of out of the way, like normally colored. This particular color gray is pretty hard to clash bad with the bottom part. And yeah, I think with the skeleton hand, it looks pretty okay-ish, like a solid C tier skin. With the human hands, though, when you have it like this, I don't really like how this skin particularly looks. I'd probably put it in D tier. But with the skeleton hand version, I think this is a decent skin. I can see why some people would like to use it. But I do think the fact that it's not a complete skin, the top part is always just kind of out of the way. It's definitely not distracting like all the other more problematic skins. The fact that it's so out of the way is kind of a problem for me, because I like when when the whole skin goes together well. But yeah, for that, I'm gonna say if you have the skeleton hand version, it's probably a high C tier, maybe even better than the Grim. But the average version of this skin is probably just right around the module, like above or below it in C tier. I'll probably put it above it, right about there. Then next up, we have the P90 Vent Rush, which is our last purple. And this one, super interesting. I did not expect to see a skin like this, but it's like HD, but not like the HD skins. It's just super detailed. It looks way super 3D. It almost looks like a car engine. It's like some duct tape holding the bottom part here together. A lot of different metallic parts that like change depending on the lighting, which I really like. General flame design to most of it, and just something about like the glossy coloring I do really like. I guess I haven't seen this one much because it's in the Recoil collection, which is pretty new. But I kind of like how this looks. It really just looks like a car engine with some like cool flame design on parts of it. But for some reason that really works for me. I'm gonna put this one in A tier as well. I think that's just a really solid contender as far as things. Probably my favorite one so far. But probably stupid expensive, so which means I'm not gonna use. But then we have the P90 Run and Hide, which, yeah, it's like a leopard camo. It's got that. It does have like a. I don't know what to describe. It has like a tarp like design or feel to it, and it fits really well. Whoever made this, maybe people that made this or person that made this definitely spent a lot of time making sure the texture looked right. I don't know how to describe right now why this looks right to me, but it just does. Looks like a kind of attachment like sewn over. I have this cool little paw thing here, and generally the top part here has this nice little design that works well with the bottom part. And overall, the skin flows super well. Got some decent colors and a really nice pattern. I'm gonna say this is probably a solid, just B tier, decent skin. Pretty hard to go wrong with, but not like best of the best. Then we have the P90 Emerald Dragon, which, yeah, I believe this one's also trade-up skin, if I'm not mistaken. You have this, like, goofy-looking dragon. See the face of here. Some clouds and a gray sky. The gray sky, flows with the rest of the skin, because it uses that default, like, metallic gray. The scratches aren't super noticeable, but the dragon thing just looks super goofy. Like, the rest of the dragon, just kind of there. It's nothing crazy, and then the face is just really goofy. So that's what you may see. But yeah, the skin is like 90% bland with this one little face the old notice. I don't really know where that puts this skin. It really just depends on how much you like that part of the skin. For me, it's not particularly something I super like, but I think it is a straight upgrade to stock, so I'm going to put it right above stock. Then next up, we have the P90 Cold Blooded. And I know this one is definitely a trade-up skin, and I'm glad it is. It looks awful. Really awful color of red, some random little snake skin going across a small part of it, and then the top part is like changed from default, but at least for me it's awfully blurry. I don't know what it's supposed to look like, but it probably wouldn't look that good anyway. All the different parts of like the barrel, the leather, like this, and the red part with the snake on it just do not go together at all. and no parts of this, other than maybe the leather, look really good on their own. I'm super glad that this is one of the straight-up skins. The actual skin looks super awful, and never want to really low F2. Next up we have the P90 Dragon, or Trigon, no. Again, doesn't come with those stickers. Got a general orange, sorry, it's got a general, you know, black and gray finish to it with some kind of interesting, almost infection-looking pattern. I don't know why it looks like an infection pattern, maybe because the one game. For some reason, that's what I'm thinking of. But the main reason you want to get this one is if you like the color orange, because there's a noticeable amount of orange all around the skin, especially on the back here. The pattern or design of the main weapon is just solid. You know, nothing awful, but nothing amazing. And then the colors in the back are, you know, they're all background colors. All you're gonna notice though when you look at this skin versus another P90 skin is you're like, wow, there's a lot of orange here, some orange triangles, different colors of orange. An orange and black tip that's a bit different from normal. But yeah, this one just basically if you like orange. The pattern is not amazing. The colors are like alright except for the orange. This one comes down to how much you like the orange color here, and I just like it a lot, so for me it's a B tier. But yeah. Then next up we have the P90 Shape One. This one's like a piece of wood attached to a piece of metal, kind of like something you'll just. I don't know. This feels like something someone would just make like on a farm, away from civilization. But yeah, it's a very simple skin, definitely done well. I mean, if you want a wooded like wood and metallic mix on a P90, this is probably the best you can do. For me, it's nothing insanely good, but it's definitely worthy of at least a low. That's where I'm at. Next up, we have the P90Shallow Grave. Yeah. It's got like this cool little Grim Reaper skeleton thing going across the whole thing. These nice little symbols on different stones across the bottom. An open eye with like a stone top. It's basically like the Grim Reaper going through like a canyon almost, down to the completely normal textured barrel. If they maybe texture this into something cool, or maybe just made it like black, like the rest of the skin would lead you to, or like maybe even red or something, it could have been a nice finish to this skin. But even without that, this skin goes pretty hard, looks pretty solid, but definitely nothing insane. I'd probably need to move some stuff around, because this tier list is a bit scuffed, but I'm going to put high B tier, and I'm going to move down the Shapewood, that HD skin or whatever, and even the Elite build and this one down to C tier, just to better amplify and like show that the B tier stuff really does belong. But yeah, so yeah, I think this one's a high B tier. Definitely not an A tier for me, but it is looking generally really solid, really cool design, really decent colors. Pretty hard to go wrong with. Then we have the P90 Nostalgia. It's from the CS20 collection. You can see the CS 1.6 guy, an exclamation mark graffiti, and I guess the stuff at the front's probably also references something, but I don't particularly know what. But yeah, the front of the skin's kind of a mess. The back of the skin's got the cool, you know, little guy in the back, and it does use the color white, which is nice. But you know, it's just alright. It's got like an okay design, decent-ish colors, but mainly you're gonna get this if you like this guy in the back, which you won't see much in game unless you like read. So for me, that's probably just somewhere in C tier, like the Death Grip. Next up, we have the P90 Death by Kitty. This one's just a bunch of different random colored cat skulls. Like, actually just random colors, a bunch of different colors. That's it. It's a very vibrant skin, very graffiti-looking skin. Yeah, I mean, it's this one's super subjective. You either really like this skin, or you don't like it that much. And I honestly kind of like it. I like the vibrancy. For some reason, the design, like the little cat skull thing, is pretty cool. I like the little, you know, target in the one eye, and then like this guy's got like a gooey eye, and this guy's like super glowy and whatnot. All the skulls are like super noticeably different, but like all fit together to make one super vibrant and noticeable skin. And I really do like that. So I'm gonna put it probably in A tier, somewhere in the. And then our final skin is the P90 Asimov. Real classic on the op, and a pretty solid skin for the P90. Just your usual solid orange, black, and white color scheme, and a general clean finish across the whole thing. Unlike whatever skin I remember talking about last with the Asimov, where they fucked it up in some way, this one's just alright. It's not like super amazing like the op, but it's definitely not awful. This is really hard to go wrong with. I'm gonna say this is a very solid high A tier. But now I do need to move something up to S tier, because you can't not have something in S tier. But it is kind of hard with the P90s. I don't think any P90 skin like specifically knocks it completely out of the park here. But for me, the ones that were super noticeably solid were this one, Freight, and probably the Offroad. I think those are probably the best P90 skins in the game at the moment. But there's nothing that I saw within these like 50-ish P90 skins that was really really blew me away. So yeah, I guess there's there's work for future skin creators to do. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed looking at these as much as I did, and I will see you in the next one.